Admiral Zephyros Caney stood before the massive holographic display in the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion's Fist. The three-dimensional map showed the known galaxy, with various colored territories marking different species domains. At the center, a small sphere of space glowed an ominous red, the Terran exclusion zone. "Admiral, the Council grows impatient," said Commander Velox, her serpentine features betraying concern. "The Rigelian trade routes could increase our profits by 30% if we could access that sector." Caney nodded slowly. For 3 centuries, the Galactic Trade Empire had respected the ancient treaty that declared human space off-limits. The agreement had been signed after humanity's devastating war with the Zephyrian Collective, a conflict that had ended mysteriously when humans simply disappeared. No ships ventured into their space, no communications emerged, and no one knew what had become of them. "The profits are too tempting," Caney muttered, studying the tactical display. "The Council believes humans are extinct. 300 years of silence suggests they may be right." The bridge hummed with activity as junior officers monitored various sectors. The trade empire had grown fat and lazy in the centuries since the treaty. Their military existed primarily for show, designed more to intimidate primitive worlds into trade agreements than to fight actual wars. The real power lay in economics, controlling trade routes, manipulating currencies, and extracting resources from weaker civilizations. "Sir, incoming transmission from Emperor Maximus himself," announced the communications officer, "a 6-armed hexapod whose species had joined the Empire 50 years prior." The holographic display shifted, revealing the corpulent figure of Emperor Maximus Goldclaw. His cybernetic implants gleamed against his scaled skin, and his 4 eyes fixed on Caney with predatory interest. "Admiral Caney," the Emperor's voice rumbled through the bridge speakers, "the Council has reached a decision. Operation Goldstrike is approved." Caney felt a chill run through his spine. "Your Majesty, are you certain? The treaty clearly states—" "The treaty is with humans, Admiral. Dead species cannot hold treaties." The Emperor's laugh was cold and calculating. "Our intelligence suggests no human activity in that sector for decades. If they're gone, their territory belongs to whoever claims it first." The Admiral knew better than to argue further. The trade empire's leadership had become increasingly greedy over the past century. They had strip-mined dozens of worlds, enslaved entire species for cheap labor, and destroyed civilizations that refused to comply with their economic demands. The mysterious wealth hidden in human space was too tempting to ignore. "What are your orders, Your Majesty?" "Take the 47th Fleet into the outer rim of human space. Start with the border systems. If you encounter resistance, assess and report. If you find resources or abandoned technology, claim them for the Empire." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Caney stared at the red zone on the display, remembering stories his grandfather had told him about the war. Humans had been fierce fighters, using tactics no other species could predict or counter. They had turned asteroids into weapons, fought in environments that would kill other species, and showed a disturbing willingness to sacrifice themselves for strategic advantage. "Orders, sir?" Commander Velox asked quietly. "Signal the fleet. We move into human space in 6 hours. Full battle readiness, despite what the Emperor believes." Caney paused, studying the tactical data. "And Velox, instruct all ships to maintain open communication channels. If we encounter anything unusual, I want immediate reports." 6 hours later, a fleet of 300 ships crossed the boundary into what had once been human space. The 47th Fleet represented one of the Empire's larger military formations, not because they expected resistance, but because the potential wealth justified the investment. The first system they entered appeared completely lifeless. Long-range sensors detected no artificial structures, no energy signatures, Nothing to suggest intelligent life had ever existed there. But as they moved deeper into the system, Lieutenant Nex, the ship's science officer, called out in confusion, "Admiral, I'm detecting massive artificial structures on the dark side of the fourth planet. They're enormous, sir." The main display zoomed in on the planet, revealing structures that defied easy explanation. Massive geometric shapes, clearly artificial, covered thousands of square kilometers. The architecture was unlike anything in the Empire's databases, angular, efficient, and somehow threatening despite appearing abandoned. "Any life signs?" Caney asked. "Negative, sir. But the structures are incredibly advanced. Some of these materials aren't in our periodic table. The power requirements for construction would have been—" Nex paused, running calculations. "Sir, these structures would have required the energy output of a star to build." Commander Velox hissed softly. "How is that possible?" Before anyone could answer, the sensors detected something else. Ships. Hundreds of them, drifting in the outer system like a massive graveyard. As the fleet moved closer, the vessel's designs became clear. Sleek, predatory craft that looked more like weapons than transportation. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "I'm picking up automated signals from those ships. They're broadcasting warnings in multiple languages, including our own." "Put it through," Caney ordered. A cold, mechanical voice filled the bridge. "Warning. You have entered restricted space. Turn back immediately. This is your only warning. Continued trespass will result in defensive action." The message repeated in dozens of languages, some that hadn't been spoken for centuries. Caney felt sweat forming on his brow despite the bridge's climate control. "Sir," Lieutenant Nex reported, "those ships aren't abandoned. They're powered down, but their reactor signatures suggest they could activate at any moment. And Admiral, there are thousands more of them throughout this system alone." Caney stared at the tactical display, watching as more and more contacts appeared on sensors. The ships were positioned in perfect defensive formations, creating overlapping fields of fire that would make any assault suicidal. But they remained dormant, as if waiting. "Any response to our presence?" he asked. "The warnings continue, sir, but no hostile action yet." The Admiral made his decision. "Signal the fleet. We continue to the next system. Mark this location for detailed study, but we don't engage unless attacked first." As the Empire fleet moved deeper into human space, they discovered system after system of the same pattern. Enormous automated defenses, clearly advanced technology, but no signs of active human presence. Each system contained wonders that would revolutionize galactic civilization. Energy sources, materials, science breakthroughs, and manufacturing capabilities that surpassed anything the Empire possessed. "It's like they built a fortress and then vanished," Commander Velox observed as they studied their findings. "Or," Caney said quietly, "they built a trap." 3 days into their expedition, the fleet encountered something different. In a system near what their charts indicated had been humanity's capital region, they found a massive space station. Unlike the defensive installations they had seen before, this structure was clearly designed for habitation. Thousands of levels, capable of housing millions of beings, but showing the same puzzling lack of life signs. "Admiral," the science officer reported, "this station is incredible. The technology here is centuries ahead of our own. If we could study these systems, reverse engineer them, the Empire would become unstoppable." Caney nodded, but unease gnawed at him. "Any response to our approach?" "The same warnings, sir. But the station's defenses haven't activated. It's almost like they're waiting for something." "Permission to board?" Commander Velox asked. The Admiral studied the display for long minutes. The potential technological windfall was enormous. The Empire could double its power overnight with access to these systems. But every instinct told him they were walking into danger. "Negative. We observe from a distance." Document everything but no boarding actions until we understand what we're dealing with." As if summoned by his words, the ship's sensors suddenly erupted with new contacts. Ships were emerging from what appeared to be empty space, not from hyperspace or any known form of faster-than-light travel, but literally materializing from invisible positions. "Stealth technology," Lieutenant Nex whispered. "They've been watching us the entire time." The new ships were unlike anything in the Empire's databases. Sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to flow rather than fly through space, and they were moving to surround the entire Imperial fleet. "Admiral," the communications officer called out urgently. "Incoming transmission! It's human!" On screen, the holographic display flickered, then resolved into the image of a human face. But this wasn't the primitive, barbaric creature the Empire remembered. The woman who appeared on screen had eyes that seemed to hold depths of knowledge and experience that made Caney feel like a child. Her expression was calm, almost sad. "Admiral Caney of the Galactic Trade Empire," she said in perfect Imperial standard. "I am Director Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Collective. You have violated the Sovereignty Treaty of 2387. You have exactly 1 hour to withdraw all forces from Terran space." "The treaty was with a species we believed extinct," Caney responded, trying to maintain his composure. "Reports of our extinction were greatly exaggerated," Chen replied with what might have been amusement. "We have simply been evolving. Your withdrawal countdown has begun." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Around them, more and more human ships continued to materialize, their numbers growing into the thousands. "Admiral," Commander Velox whispered, "what do we do?" Caney stared at the tactical display, watching as the Empire's mighty fleet found itself surrounded by forces they couldn't even properly count. The humans had been waiting, watching, preparing for 3 centuries. "Signal the fleet," he said quietly. "Begin withdrawal procedures and send an immediate message to Emperor Maximus. Tell him the humans are very much alive." Emperor Maximus Goldclaw crushed the communication device in his massive fist, the delicate electronics sparking and dying. The emergency session of the Trade Council had been called within minutes of Admiral Caney's report, and the massive chamber buzzed with nervous energy from representatives of dozens of species. "This is impossible," declared Chancellor Vex, the spider-like arachnid representative whose species controlled most of the Empire's mining operations. "Our intelligence networks would have detected a resurgent human civilization. They've been silent for 300 years. Emperor Maximus paced before the great assembly, his 4 eyes blazing with anger and something else, fear. "Apparently, our intelligence networks are worthless. Admiral Caney reports human vessels with technology that makes our fleet look like children's toys." Trade Minister Korath, whose crystalline form refracted light in rainbow patterns when agitated, chimed with distress. "Your Majesty, if the humans possess advanced technology, we must consider diplomatic solutions. Perhaps trade agreements." "No!" The Emperor's roar silenced the chamber. "The Galactic Trade Empire does not negotiate from a position of weakness. We are the dominant force in this galaxy. Some hidden human remnant will not dictate terms to us." General Thane, the Empire's military commander and one of the few voices of caution in the government, stepped forward. His battle-scarred hide bore testament to decades of conquest campaigns. "Your Majesty, with respect, Admiral Kane's initial report suggests the humans have been preparing for this moment. 3 centuries is enough time to develop technologies we cannot imagine. Perhaps restraint? Restraint is for the weak." Maximus slammed his fist on the marble podium. "The human space contains resources worth trillions of credits, energy sources, rare materials, and now apparently advanced technology. If we seize it, the Empire's power will be unquestioned for millennia." The Trade Council chamber fell silent. Each representative calculated the potential wealth involved, their natural greed warring with basic survival instincts. The Empire had grown fat on exploitation and easy conquests. They had never faced an opponent with superior technology. "What do you propose, Your Majesty?" asked Director Silas, the Centurion representative whose military background usually made him more cautious. "Full mobilization. Every fleet, every ally, every mercenary group we can hire. If the humans want war, they will have it. And when we finish with them, their space will belong to the Empire." General Thane's expression darkened. "Your Majesty, mobilizing the entire Imperial military will take months. Meanwhile, we have Admiral Caney's fleet trapped in human space. What if the humans don't wait for our withdrawal deadline?" The Emperor's smile was predatory. "Then we will see exactly what these evolved humans are capable of. Signal Admiral Caney. He is to hold position and gather intelligence. If the humans attack, they will be the treaty violators, not us." Back in human space, Admiral Caney received the Emperor's orders with growing dread. The 1-hour deadline Director Chen had given him was down to 30 minutes, and his sensors showed human ships continuing to materialize around his fleet. The numbers were staggering. His 300 vessels faced at least 5,000 human craft, with more appearing every few minutes. "Admiral," Commander Velox reported, "the human ships are maintaining distance, but they formed a perfect sphere around us. Escape routes are completely blocked." "Any response to our requests for extended negotiations?" Caney asked. "Negative, sir. The humans maintain radio silence except for periodic countdown updates." Lieutenant Nex looked up from his sensor station, confusion clear in his alien features. "Admiral, I'm detecting something unusual. The human ships, they're not using any propulsion system I can identify. They move without visible exhaust, without energy signatures. It's like they've mastered inertia itself." "Impossible," Commander Velox hissed. "The laws of physics don't allow—" "The laws of physics as we understand them," Caney corrected grimly. "Clearly the humans understand more than we do." 15 minutes before the deadline, something changed. The space around the Imperial fleet began to shimmer, as if reality itself was becoming unstable. Energy readings spiked across every sensor array. "Admiral!" Lieutenant Nex called out in panic. "Space-time distortions forming around the fleet. I've never seen anything like this. It's like they're manipulating gravity itself." Before Caney could respond, Director Chen's image appeared on the main screen again. This time, she wasn't alone. Behind her stood figures that made the Imperial officers gasp in shock. Humans, but clearly modified far beyond natural evolution. Some showed cybernetic enhancements that put the Empire's best technology to shame. Others seemed to shift between different forms, as if they existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Admiral Caney," Director Chen said, her voice carrying new authority, "your Emperor has ordered you to maintain position despite our deadline. This forces our hand." "Director Chen, please. We can resolve this diplomatically. The Empire is willing to negotiate." "The time for negotiation ended when your fleet crossed our border. However, we are not without mercy." Chen's expression softened slightly. "You and your crews are soldiers following orders. You will be given one final opportunity." The transmission shifted, showing views of human space from new angles. Vast cities floated in the void, their architecture defying conventional engineering. Massive ships, each the size of moons, moved between star systems with casual ease, and everywhere the signs of a civilization that had transcended traditional limitations. "This is what we have become in 3 centuries of isolation," Chen continued. "We have unlocked secrets of matter, energy, and space-time that your empire cannot imagine. We have no interest in conquest or trade. We seek only to be left alone. But your violation of our space threatens the delicate balance we have maintained, so you will serve as an example." Admiral Caney felt ice form in his veins. What kind of example? Your ships will be returned to Empire space, unharmed but modified. When your Emperor sees what we can do, perhaps he will reconsider his aggressive policies. Before Caney could ask what she meant, the space-time distortions around the Imperial fleet intensified. The Admiral felt a strange sensation, as if reality was becoming fluid. The stars outside began to shift and blur. "All stations, report!" he commanded. "Sir, we're moving, but not under our own power," Lieutenant Nex reported, his voice filled with awe. "The humans are somehow transporting our entire fleet. Space-time is folding around us. We're crossing light years in seconds." The experience was disorienting beyond description. The Imperial fleet found itself caught in a bubble of altered physics, moving through space in ways that violated every known law of interstellar travel. Around them, human ships maintained perfect formation, their strange vessels serving as guides through the impossible journey. When the distortions finally stopped, Admiral Caney found his fleet hanging in space near the border of Empire territory. Emergency communications flooded in from Imperial command stations, demanding explanations for their sudden appearance. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "incoming transmission from the lead human vessel." Director Chen appeared on screen one final time. "Admiral Kane, you and your crews are free to return home. But first, examine your ships." Caney looked at Commander Velox with confusion. "What does she mean?" The answer came from Lieutenant Nex, whose voice trembled with shock. "Admiral, our weapons. They're gone. Not destroyed, not damaged. Simply gone. As if they never existed." "Impossible," Velox whispered. But her checks of the tactical systems confirmed the report. Every weapon on every ship in the fleet had vanished completely, not just disabled, erased from existence as if they had never been installed. "Additionally," Director Chen continued, "you will find new systems installed throughout your vessels. Study them carefully. Share the data with your Emperor. Let him understand exactly what level of technology he would face if he continues this path." As if summoned by her words, new readings began appearing on every console. Systems that hadn't existed moments before were now integral parts of each ship, energy sources that produced power outputs beyond Imperial understanding. Communication systems that could transmit across galactic distances instantaneously. And most disturbing of all, monitoring devices that seemed to observe and record everything. "These modifications are gifts," Chen explained, "examples of what cooperation with humanity might offer. But they come with a price. Every ship in your fleet now broadcasts its location to us continuously. If any Imperial vessel crosses into Terran space again, we will know immediately." The implications hit Admiral Kane like a physical blow. The humans had demonstrated the ability to modify 300 ships instantly, removing some systems and installing others with casual ease. They had transported an entire fleet across dozens of light years in minutes, and they had done it all without apparent effort. "Return to your Emperor," Director Chen concluded. "Tell him that the Terran Defense Collective offers him a choice: honor the original treaty and leave us in peace, or face consequences he cannot imagine. But know this, there will be no third warning." The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial fleet alone at the border. Around them, space remained empty of human vessels, but Admiral Caney knew they were being watched. The monitoring systems hummed with alien technology, transmitting their every movement to the mysterious human civilization. As the fleet began its journey back to the Imperial capital, Caney stared at the reports flooding his screens. The new systems the humans had installed were beyond anything in the Empire's technological database. Power sources that seemed to draw energy from quantum fluctuations, propulsion systems that manipulated space-time itself, communication devices that operated outside normal space entirely. "Admiral," Commander Velox said quietly. "What do we tell the Emperor?" Caney studied the data, understanding with growing horror that the Empire had stumbled into a conflict they could not win. The humans had spent 3 centuries evolving beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. They had become something new, something that made the trade empire look like primitive barbarians. "We tell him the truth," Caney said finally, "and we pray he's wise enough to listen." But even as he said it, Admiral Caney knew Emperor Maximus would not listen. The promise of wealth and power in human space was too tempting. The Emperor's greed would drive the Empire into a war they could not possibly win. The only question now was how completely the humans would destroy them when that war began. Emperor Maximus Goldclaw stood in his private chambers, surrounded by the shattered remains of priceless artifacts. His rage had consumed everything within reach. Crystal sculptures worth more than entire worlds, communication devices linking him to every corner of the Empire, even the massive throne that had been carved from a single diamond moon. Admiral Caney's report lay scattered across the floor, its pages detailing the impossible technologies the humans had demonstrated. The removal of weapons from 300 ships simultaneously, the installation of monitoring systems that defied understanding, transportation across interstellar distances in minutes rather than weeks. "Your Majesty," General Thane ventured cautiously from the doorway, "the full report confirms Admiral Caney's initial assessment. The humans possess technology centuries beyond our own. Perhaps we should—" "Get out," Maximus snarled, his voice barely controlled. "Your Majesty, the Military Council believes—" "Get out!" The Emperor's roar shook the chamber walls. "All of you, leave me!" General Thane withdrew, understanding that the Emperor needed time to process what the reports meant. But he also knew Maximus well enough to fear what conclusion that processing would reach. Hours later, Emperor Maximus emerged from his chambers with a terrible calm. He had made his decision, and it was not the one his advisors hoped for. "Summon the War Council," he commanded. "Full assembly, every general, every admiral, every species representative, and activate the Supremacy Protocol." General Thane felt cold dread wash over him. "Your Majesty, the Supremacy Protocol has never been used. The costs will be irrelevant once we control human space," Maximus finished. "The humans have shown us their hand. They possess incredible technology, which means incredible wealth. And if they can modify our ships so easily, imagine what they could do for us willingly." "Sir, they clearly have no interest in cooperation." Director Chen's message was unambiguous. Director Chen spoke from a position of strength because we approached with a single fleet. When she faces the full might of the Galactic Trade Empire, she will be more reasonable. The Supremacy Protocol was the Empire's most desperate contingency plan. It involved calling in every favor, every debt, every alliance the Empire had cultivated over centuries. Mercenary fleets from the Outer Rim, slave armies from conquered worlds, automated battle platforms from a dozen different species. The economic cost would be staggering, but the potential rewards of human space would justify any expense. Within days, the largest military force in galactic history began assembling at the Empire's primary military staging area. 50,000 ships from hundreds of different species, weapons platforms the size of cities, entire automated fleets controlled by artificial intelligences. The gathered armada represented the military might of half the known galaxy. "Status report," Emperor Maximus demanded as he surveyed the massive fleet from his command ship, the absolute authority. 97% of requested forces have arrived." "Your Majesty," General Thane reported grimly, 43 species have contributed ships or personnel. The Corvaxi have provided their entire slave fleet. The Mechanical Collective has allocated 17 automated battle groups. And the Hegemony has sent their dreadnought squadrons. Total ship count? 52,700 vessels, Your Majesty. The largest military force ever assembled. Emperor Maximus smiled, his 4 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Excellent. Signal the fleet. We advance on human space immediately. Your Majesty, Admiral Caney interjected, the humans' monitoring systems will detect our approach long before we reach their territory. They'll have ample time to prepare. Let them prepare, Maximus laughed. What can they do against 50,000 ships? Their technology is impressive, but they're still just one species. We represent the combined might of half the galaxy. The massive fleet began its journey toward human space, a formation so large it took hours for the vanguard to pass any given point. The Empire's allies had brought their most powerful vessels, confident that overwhelming numbers would triumph over superior technology. But as the fleet approached the border of human space, strange things began happening. Admiral Kane, Lieutenant Nex reported from his science station, I'm detecting unusual readings from the monitoring systems the humans installed. They're doing something, drawing power from our own reactors. Before Caney could respond, every ship in the fleet received the same transmission simultaneously. Director Sarah Chen appeared on every screen, but this time she was not alone. Hundreds of other humans stood behind her, their faces showing a mixture of sadness and determination. Emperor Maximus, Chen's voice carried across the fleet. You have chosen to ignore our warnings. The assembled force approaching our space represents the largest military threat in galactic history. But you have made a fundamental error. The transmission shifted to show views of the massive Imperial fleet from external cameras. The sight was truly impressive. Thousands of ships stretching across space in perfect formation, bristling with weapons and defensive systems. You assume that greater numbers equals greater power, Chen continued. But you fail to understand what we have become. 3 centuries ago, humanity faced extinction. We were beaten, scattered, driven from our homes. So we made a choice. New images appeared on the screens. Human space as it existed now. But these were not the empty systems the Empire's scouts had reported. Vast structures filled entire star systems. Artificial worlds orbited impossible arrangements of stars, and everywhere, signs of a civilization that had transcended traditional limitations. We chose evolution over extinction. We transformed ourselves, our society, our very understanding of reality. We became something new. Enough talk, Emperor Maximus roared across the communication channels. Surrender now, or face the consequences. Director Chen's expression remained calm. Very well. You leave us no choice but to demonstrate why Terran space has remained off limits. The transmission ended, and for a moment, nothing happened. The massive Imperial fleet continued its advance toward the border, weapons systems charging, commanders preparing for the largest space battle in galactic history. Then reality began to change. It started with the monitoring systems the humans had installed in Admiral Kane's fleet. The devices suddenly flared with energy, drawing massive amounts of power from the ship's reactors. Warning alarms sounded across every vessel as their power systems were drained to dangerous levels. What's happening? Emperor Maximus demanded. The monitoring devices, Lieutenant Nex shouted from his station. They're not just drawing power, they're rewriting our systems, our weapons, our shields, our engines. Everything is changing. Across the 50,000-ship fleet, the same transformation was occurring. The human monitoring devices were somehow converting the Empire's technology into something else entirely. Weapons systems became inert, shield generators transformed into communication arrays, propulsion systems evolved into sensors of impossible sensitivity. It's a virus, General Thane realized with horror. A technological virus that spreads through quantum entanglement. Every ship that came into contact with Admiral Caney's modified fleet is now being converted. But the transformation was only the beginning. As the Imperial fleet's technology was rewritten, New capabilities began to emerge. The ship's sensors suddenly detected what had been hidden before. Human space wasn't empty at all. It was full of life. Massive structures had been invisible to Imperial sensors because they existed in dimensions the Empire couldn't perceive. Entire civilizations lived and worked in parallel dimensions, connected to normal space through technologies that made even the Empire's wildest dreams seem primitive. "By the void," Admiral Caney whispered, staring at the sensor readings. "There are millions of them, billions. Human space contains more people than the entire trade empire." And they were all armed. Ships began materializing around the Imperial fleet, not just the thousands that had surrounded Admiral Caney, but millions of vessels. They emerged from folded space, from parallel dimensions, from quantum states that shouldn't have been possible. Each ship was a masterwork of technology that made the Empire's finest vessels look like crude prototypes. "Impossible!" Emperor Maximus breathed, his 4 eyes wide with shock. "This many ships, this much technology. How did our intelligence miss this?" "Because they didn't want us to see it," Admiral Caney answered grimly. "The humans have been hiding an entire civilization in plain sight. They've mastered dimensional technology, quantum engineering, space-time manipulation. They're not just more advanced than us. They're beyond us entirely." Director Chen's voice filled the communication channels again, but this time it carried the authority of something far greater than a single person. "Emperor Maximus, you now see the truth. Humanity did not disappear 3 centuries ago. We evolved. We became guardians of technologies that could reshape reality itself. And we chose isolation to protect the galaxy from forces it was not ready to handle." Images flashed across the screens. Weapons that could extinguish stars. Devices that could rewrite the laws of physics in localized areas. Technologies that could create or destroy entire dimensions. "You forced us to reveal ourselves, but this demonstration comes with consequences. Your fleet has been converted to serve as our ambassadors. Every ship will return to its home system, but they will carry our modifications. Your peoples will see what true advancement looks like." "No!" Emperor Maximus roared. "We won't be humiliated. Attack! All ships! Attack immediately!" But nothing happened. The Imperial fleet's weapons were gone, transformed into something else entirely. Even worse, the ships were no longer under Imperial control. They had become something new, something that served a different purpose. "The conversion is complete," Director Chen announced. "Your ships will return to your respective homeworlds. They will carry food synthesizers that can end hunger, medical devices that can cure any disease, energy sources that can power entire civilizations for millennia. You have a choice. Use these gifts to improve your societies or continue your aggressive policies and face the full response of the Terran Defense Collective." "This is impossible," Emperor Maximus screamed. 50,000 ships, the combined might of half the galaxy. You can't just— "We already have," Chen interrupted gently. "Your fleet is departing now. The ships will carry their crews safely home, but they will never again serve as instruments of conquest. They have been transformed into tools of prosperity and peace." Across the vast armada, ships began to move, not under their commander's control, but guided by the new systems the humans had installed. One by one, the massive vessels turned away from human space and began the journey home. Their weapons were gone, but they carried technologies that could revolutionize galactic civilization. Emperor Maximus found himself alone on the bridge of his command ship, his massive fleet scattered and transformed beyond recognition. The absolute authority was returning to the imperial capital, but it was no longer the ship he had commanded. It had become something else, something peaceful. "Your Majesty," Admiral Caney's voice came through the communication system. "We're receiving detailed technical specifications from the human systems. Medical technology centuries beyond our own. energy sources that could power the entire empire. Agricultural techniques that could feed quadrillions. "I don't want their gifts," Maximus snarled. "I want their space. I want their resources." "Your Majesty," Admiral Caney said quietly, "I don't think you understand. They've shown us their true capabilities. They could have destroyed every ship in our fleet with a thought. Instead, they've given us technologies that will benefit every species in the Empire. Perhaps it's time to reconsider our priorities." As the scattered remnants of the Imperial fleet returned to their homeworlds, they carried with them proof of humanity's transformation. The technologies installed in each ship were freely shared, spreading across hundreds of civilizations. Hunger ended on dozens of worlds. Diseases that had plagued species for millennia were cured overnight. Energy sources provided clean, unlimited power to every Imperial world. The Galactic Trade Empire found itself transformed not through conquest, but through generosity. The humans had demonstrated that true power lay not in domination, but in lifting others up. Emperor Maximus was eventually overthrown by his own people, who had seen what cooperation with advanced civilizations could accomplish. The new government signed a formal treaty with the Terran Defense Collective, acknowledging human space as sovereign territory and establishing peaceful relations. Director Sarah Chen stood once again on the observation deck of her command station, watching as human space returned to its hidden state. The dimensional barriers were restored, the parallel realities secured. To outside observers, the region would once again appear empty and lifeless. But now the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity had not disappeared. It had transcended. And should any species threaten the peace they guarded, they would face powers beyond imagination. The Empire had learned that some territories remained off-limits, not because they were weak, but because they were strong beyond measure. And sometimes the greatest victory was knowing when not to fight at all.